Hey guys, C-Man235, and I am finally here for my review of Captain America Civil War, which everyone has saw except for me until, actually yesterday, the 7th. I believe it was, no, actually, it's Monday? I forget when. Either way, I saw it like 1 or 2 days ago. I don't care. Either way, I believe it was the 7th, so it's Saturday, so I have a calendar right there, but I don't feel like getting up and looking. Anyway, Captain America Civil War. It's finally out. Now, for the sake of this video not being over an hour long, and for the sake of actually keeping it on Captain America, I already recorded, like, a couple weeks ago, I think, actually, a video. It's gonna be fucking annoying to edit, about the DC Extended Universe and why I think Batman v Superman failed. It's finally coming, I know, like 3 weeks later when everyone's already stopped giving a shit about that crappy movie. So no, I'm not gonna talk about it much. I will, like, talk about it if I want to go into comparison's sake, but I'm not going to so much talk about that because I'm gonna have a rant about the DC Extended Universe so far. So I'm not gonna rant about Batman v Superman that much in this film. Even though the two films are arguably very similar in a couple of ways and very different. For example, one's good and one's bad. I guess you can think of what's good. It's not Batman v Superman. Captain America Civil War is, oh my god, fucking fantastic. Oh my god, like, the Russo brothers strike again. This is like, I was very, you know, polarized when I first heard of the announcement of Civil War, unlike a lot of people who were excited. Because on one hand, I really wanted to see the superheroes clash. I wanted to see them kick each other's asses. That always is a really fun concept. But the thing is, they also had to have motivations if you're doing it in an actual in-canon story. If it's just like a death battle thing, then it's fine. You don't really need any story, even though Death Battle sometimes tries to put at least some kind of motivation. But, let's be honest here, you don't give a shit about their motivations. You just want to see them fight. But with this with the movie that's in canon with the rest of the universe and is trying to tell a story, the fight has to be there for a reason. So, on one hand, I know Civil War, the comic, did that. Thing is, though, Civil War is really not a good comic. It really isn't. The movie is great, but the comic itself that was based on is not that good. Another thing is that it also had to deal with a lot more characters. You know, Spider-Man just got back to Marvel, so they had to put him in there. He's not in there for long, but he is excellent, and I'll talk about Spider-Man when I get to it. But yeah, so yeah, and Black Panther was going to be in it, and this was his this is kind of his origin. And not to mention, keep in mind, the name Captain America is on there. And that's the thing, like, with Captain America on there, you're wondering, well, is this a Captain America film, or is this just an Avengers 3.5 before we get to Avengers Infinity War? So, I wasn't, sure how to feel about it, but, you know, all my problems with the film, not so much with marketing. Marketing-wise, the movie looked amazing, but at the same time, I was still cautious. Not to mention, has there really been any third Marvel movie in a trilogy? Like, for example, Spider-Man 3 or X-Men 3, that has been, like, legitimately praised for being amazing? Not really. The closest we had was Iron Man 3, and only people say that was good. Not great, just good, or okay. And to be honest, while I liked Iron Man 3 a lot in the theater, I didn't really like it as I watched it more and more. It's the point where I just kind of think it's not downright bad, but definitely underwhelming compared to what we got with the first Iron Man, and especially after Avengers. However, this is the first Marvel movie, to me, in a trilogy that is actually really good. Well, okay, I liked Age of Ultron. Well, actually, no, Age of Ultron isn't a third movie. Dumbass. But, regardless of such, I know a lot of people got pissed off by Age of Ultron. I still like the film. I don't care what anyone says. I acknowledge it's flawed, but regardless. Captain America Civil War, though, is, I think, the movie that a lot of people were looking for. Because everyone started hating Marvel again after Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man were kind of underwhelming compared to other Marvel movies, and now they love them again because there's now another really good Marvel movie. But yeah, it's weird. Like, out of all the things we thought were going to be some of the best films, like, we thought Avengers 2 was going to be amazing. We thought, like, the Avengers films were going to be the best. Oddly enough, it's the one that everyone thought would have been the worst, Captain America, that gets the best damn movies. Winter Soldier was, well, to me, is the best Marvel film. Not that Civil War is worse than Winter Soldier, because honestly, in many ways, I actually think it improves on Winter Soldier, at least by bits. And to me, I actually probably would put it higher than Winter Soldier, but at the same time, it came out like less than, like, what, a week ago? Like maybe less than 4 days ago, maybe. So I don't think I'll put it that high yet, but in time, after another rewatch, I think I might just have a new favorite Marvel film. It's that damn good. Like, seriously, this movie, first off, it pretty much does everything I wanted it to. You know, the superheroes fought, and the fight was amazing. The motivations for all the characters were really well established. It's not all black and white. There's a humongous shade of gray, and I love that. It's a Captain America movie, first and foremost. Now, yes, is it also a Bucky movie / Winter Soldier movie? Yeah. Is it also an Iron Man movie? Yeah. Is it also an Avengers movie? Yeah. But Captain America, you know, like, if you were to put a list, Captain America would be at the top in bold letters and be like a bigger size font. This is a Captain America movie. It just has, you know, the Civil War plotline as well kind of put into it. You know? The Civil War part as well was handled really well, much better than the comic. Because in the comic, I heard it was really one-sided. Here, the same outcome happens. Like the law that superheroes are apparently going to be not necessarily. Actually, in the original comic, I believe like the superheroes were supposed to unmask for the government to see them all, and that led to a lot of issues. However, when it came to this movie, instead, superheroes were going to be run by the government. Like, the government has their reasons. The Avengers both have their reasons for thinking what they're thinking, and the theme of like guilt, of like consequences and guilt. That's really the theme of this film. Like, each of their battles that we saw in the Avengers, you know, like Iron Man really says it early on in the films. Like, see, this is a kid that actually died when we were kicking ass in Sokovia. You know, the country they were fighting in Age of Ultron. And, yeah, all of those battles that we had so much fun, we were laughing and cheering at in Avengers Age of Ultron even. Yes, you cheered, don't say you didn't, at points anyway. And a lot of other places, all those, you know, and Captain America Civil War, you know, I always wondered what happened to the helicarriers. Like, what, did they just land safely in the ocean? Oh, please, don't tell me, oh shit, people did die. Oh, shit, I was right. I was honestly surprised. I actually pointed that out in Winter Soldier. It wasn't a flaw by any means. I understand they had to make a finale, but yeah, people died in all of those events. Some of them even by the Avengers directly, like the Hulk who was rampaging. When he was like jumping from building to building, some rubble landed on a person with a smartphone that was recording that the entire time. You know, they addressed this in other things too. Like, they addressed it, I believe, in Age of Ultron, and I know they definitely addressed it in Jessica Jones, in a specific episode where Jessica just went berserk, and that was not only hilarious but also a really, really good moment for her character. See the series if you want to know what I'm talking about. It's awesome. But anyway, yeah, like, there were consequences for their actions, and not everyone likes them in this film. Now, a lot, you know, and not to mention, even the government, what I like about it is that the government aren't just the typical douchebag government. They're not the villains. They're not even bad guys, even. Even Ross. Thunderbolt Ross. You know that asshole from The Incredible Hulk? Yeah, he's not even an asshole like he usually is. No. You know, the thing with it is that, like, he acknowledges the Avengers have done good. And if it weren't for them, then a lot of people wouldn't be alive, but at the same time, they've let them roam around on their own for too long. People are getting hurt, and there's a specific point, there's a breaking point in this film. It's not just a thing that has happened over time. No. Well, okay, it has, but there is a breaking point in this movie early on. So I'm pretty sure you all know what the plot is. You know, Captain America and Iron Man obviously have disagreeing points on whether the superheroes should work for the government or not, and whether this act should be placed. A couple people agree with Iron Man, a couple people don't. There's betrayal and sacrifice and all of that, and no, there's actually really no sacrifice. But you know what I mean? The superheroes are now divided. They're, you know, some of them don't want to work for the law because sometimes Iron Man's argument is pretty much that, you know, we need to be put in check. People are dying and not everyone thinks we're heroes. And like, yeah, I know we can't save everyone, but we haven't been doing as good of a job as we should. And, you know, people are getting hurt because of us. What makes us better than the bad guys? Cap's argument is, well, no, we shouldn't work for the government. What if they send us to the wrong place at the wrong time? What if they send us to a place that nobody wants to go to? What if they don't send us to anywhere? Like, there's this dangerous situation, and instead of calling us, the cavalry, essentially, no, what if they actually send the military instead, and now military soldiers die? And then that's blood on not only the government's hands, but it's also going to be blamed on the Avengers as well. So, both sides have a very, very well-made and well-done argument. You know, and I saw both points of views. I am still Team Cap because personally I agree that, yes, you can't save everyone. Sometimes sometimes losses are going to happen, and yes, it is going to be pinned on you. The only thing you can do is move on from it. And that, because there should be people working outside the law. And that's not necessarily like vigilantes, not in real life, obviously. But there are some things that the government just can't and won't do. Sometimes they'll cover something up, and by that point, the Avengers wouldn't be allowed to do anything. Not to mention, there was a whole government conspiracy in the last movie for Captain America, Winter Soldier. There was a whole worldwide conspiracy. There was a whole ride. S.H.I.E.L.D. was compromised and pretty much destroyed. It was taken over by Hydra since the beginning, and no one noticed. And the people who did notice were either killed or covered it up. That's what happened. When it came to the argument, I stood on Cap's side, but I got where Tony was coming from, and I honestly I definitely felt his pain too, because Tony, oh god, poor Tony. Okay, early on this is established. Pepper Potts kind of dumped Tony. Mainly because Tony wouldn't stop being Iron Man, Age of Ultron and everything. He was obviously saddened by Pepper Potts's, him and Pepper kind of leaving each other, and that obviously made him really sad. But at the same time, while you can tell this was also started due to a person like. Pretty much, Tony Stark first appears when he's pretty much giving money to a school for talented youngsters, so they can help make the world a better place. I think it was a college he was helping, and he was talking to one of the people I believe that was working there, and she spoke to Tony and told her about how she had a child who actually invented something and wanted to make the world a better place, and even looked up to the Avengers. And then she also says that he went to Sokovia and died. And I think you can guess what happened. He died because they dropped like pretty much an island on them from Age of Ultron. So that obviously sends Tony into a breaking point, and obviously it's not the only thing to kickstart this whole thing, but it is one of the things that definitely gets Tony to sort of think about things in his own perspective and why he thinks he does what he does. What I also like is that there's a level of respect. You can clearly tell that these people don't want to, A, kill each other. They never think about killing one of their own. Well, okay, Iron Man does at one point in the movie, but it's not during the airport fight. And it actually makes sense. Not to mention that, okay, well, I guess Black Panther and Winter Soldier, which I'm not gonna spoil, even though it's early on in the movie, and I think you know what happens, but I'm not gonna spoil it. But yeah, so really, there's a level of respect between the people who are fighting, and they not to tell they don't want to fight. And some of them even are conflicted about fighting in general. And they still bring, despite the very serious issues that are going on, they still manage to bring a lot of heart, a lot of levity. It's kind of like what I'm going to complain about another movie that came out like 3 weeks ago. So, Yeah, it still manages to keep a lot of humorous moments, but still also sticks to its dark subject material. So to all the people who are gonna say, oh, Marvel's just way too jokey, you can't take them seriously, they're a freaking cartoon franchise at this point, I don't think you have any room to talk about this film in particular. Plus, they're superheroes. Like, okay, yeah, I guess Batman can be taken so seriously. It's not like it's about a guy who dresses up like a fucking bat and punches people. Wait a minute. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, so yeah, that's awesome. So let's actually talk about, you know, some of the characters. I'm gonna talk about the new ones first, because really with the old ones, there's really not much to mention. You know, they are continuing their arcs, but really there's not many new characters to there's not much to mention about the old characters. You know, they're just as great as, they're just as great as I thought they were in previous movies. You know, Tony Stark is always, you know, Robert Downey Jr. is always great as Tony Stark. Chris Evans nails it with Captain America. You know, there's nothing more for me to say with the main characters. They're all amazing. With some of the new cast, though, for one thing, we get Scott Lang from Ant-Man, which I did see in theaters, and I really liked Scott Lang, so of course I'm excited for about that. I especially love to see later. You know what? That's spoilers. It's a spoiler thing. So you know what? I'm gonna keep my mouth shut mostly for spoilers. With a couple of minor things, I will spoil, but most of the major ones I'll save for like a second video, since the movie did just come out last weekend. So, but yeah, when it comes to the new characters, Black Panther was awesome. He had a lot of really good action scenes. He pretty much had his origin, which was simple enough already. His origin is pretty simple. But not only do we get to know the father at least a little bit before he dies. Oh, that's a spoiler, but it happens so early in the film. And let's be honest here, if you know about Black Panther, you know his father's gonna die. That's what drives him to become Black Panther, either for revenge or to take back his kingdom or whatever they plan to do with the character in particular. But yeah, Black Panther, he was awesome. He had some funny moments. His character, his motivations were clear as well. Overall, though, he was badass. He had a lot of badass scenes, and I'm really looking forward to the movie with him too. I felt they got his origin done really well in this movie, and it didn't take away from the fact that it was still a Captain America movie. They focused on enough time with his origin and what he goes through in this film, so that way the Black Panther movie can be originless. Thank you so much. You know, and they wrote it really well into the story too. It's actually a very poignant part of the story as well. You know, so yeah, it was well done, well written, very well made, and you know, the Black Panther is just an awesome character in general. Spider-Man, he's not in the movie for very long. But I have a feeling that the Spider-Man movie in 2017 is going to be really, really interesting. Because to me, in the short amount of time that he's in it, he's already not only miles better than Andrew Garfield, and yes, I said he was better. Get over it, fanboys. But also, honestly, he's the best. It's so nice to see Spider-Man in a good movie again. Like, the last good Spider-Man movie we had, to me, was Spider-Man 2. That was over 10 years ago. It is so nice to have a good Spider-Man again after so long of just mediocrity, mediocrity after absolute failure. So it's nice to see Spider-Man finally getting some time to shine. And to me, the actor they chose was really good. Some say the voice is a little too young, like he sounds like Natural Boy. Personally, I don't mind though, because he's a teenager. So, is his voice a little high-pitched for a teenager of his age? Yeah, but, you know, I don't really mind it. You know, I thought it was fitting. Not to mention, they made Aunt May a lot younger, which leads to a really funny joke with Tony Stark, because, you know, Tony Stark is a womanizer. So don't worry, it's not like, you know, she's not like 80 years old. They actually made her a lot younger. So, so yeah, you'll see that later on. But Spider-Man, to me, I'm not going to spoil too much about him, but let's just say this. He's the Spider-Man I have wanted since Tobey Maguire stopped playing him, or I guess actually more specifically since Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2. You know, But to me, he's the best of both worlds. Like Andrew Garfield's problem was that he was way too jokey, and that led to a lot of problems. And it just led to him like hurting a bunch of people more than saving a bunch of people, especially in Amazing 2. Okay, there we go. The camera cuts after 20 minutes. I have to deal with that. So anyway, what I mean is that Andrew Garfield was a bit too handsome for the role. Just let's be honest here. Peter Parker, he's not necessarily a dork like Tobey was at points, but he definitely was a nerd. He wasn't popular. Like, Andrew Garfield looks like he would fucking run the school. He looks like a rich kid who's cocky and sure of himself and everything, you know? And that's not Peter Parker. Like, when we saw the scene where he was kissing Gwen Stacy at the graduation in Amazing 2, that was not Peter Parker. Not to mention Spider-Man. I do think that Andrew Garfield was trying in the first Amazing, but in Amazing 2, he's way too jokey, and it made it look like Deadpool, the fucking Deadpool movie came 2 years earlier than it actually should have. And that was something that I just didn't like. And yes, Tobey Maguire, admittedly, I had problems with. You know, I don't think he's the best Spider-Man, like some people say he is. You know, I do agree that he did do a good Peter Parker, but admittedly, sometimes he was a bit too dorky for my taste. I do think he did cry a little too much, mostly in Spider-Man 3. That wasn't so much of an issue with the first 2 movies for me, as some people say. And, oh, by the way, let's not kid ourselves. Andrew cried a lot in the first 2 Amazing movies as well. Let's be honest here. But, you know, and not to mention, I didn't like Tobey's portrayal in Spider-Man 3, but that's a bad movie, so maybe we shouldn't count it. But in the first 2 Spider-Man films, I did feel it was a bit too dorky, and there were some points where the silliness was a bit cringeworthy. Thankfully, you know, I still think Spider-Man 1 is a good movie, and Spider 2 is an amazing movie, no matter what people say about it. But overall, I will admit that it wasn't my favorite take. Personally, I always wanted to see the Spectacular Spider-Man version done, like, I always wanted to see that version of the character put into film. You know, he wasn't too dorky, but he was still nerdy. He was socially awkward in almost every possible way. He didn't really know how to talk to people in general. And at the same time, you know, while he was a little more cocky and a little more confident when he was Spider-Man, at the same time, he still had to deal with the struggles of real life, and that definitely made him depressed at a lot of points. So I wanted that version of Spider-Man. To me, he was like Josh Keaton, I believe the voice actor's name is, who is a very good voice actor, very talented. I felt he was he was the best Spider-Man in that, and I always wanted to see that like version, the characterization of that Peter Parker / Spider-Man in the movies. And I feel with the little bit amount of time that we got both of that with both Peter and Spider-Man. And yes, both of them. So I personally think that I also like the little added addition that he kind of is into retro tech, because he's you know, he got it from the garbage because he's a dumpster diver, because he wasn't able to actually get technology. He wasn't able to afford it, because, you know, Aunt-Man and Peter, they're poor. They're fucking poor. So yeah, I did like that little aspect that they changed about his character. It was a minor change. It was a minor addition, I should say. It's not even a change. It's more of an addition. Because you know Peter has been a scientist, but he does tinker with tech from time to time. He knows a thing or two about tech. He is a scientist. So, you know, and for Christ's sakes, he did build the web shooters. You know, and that was what I liked about that version of Peter Parker, is that it felt like the Spider-Man that I wanted to be on film, even though it was a short amount of time, which is why I'm really looking forward to the new Spider-Man film where we get to see more of him. And the kid they got to play him is really good. I wasn't too bothered by the voice. Personally, I think the actor they got to play him, he's great. He's excellent. Not only as Spider-Man, but even as Peter for the short time he is Peter Parker when he's talking to Tony Stark. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm not gonna spoil too much with him, even though he's really only in a couple of scenes. But I'm, you know, still though. So that's pretty much all the non-spoiler stuff I'm going to actually put up for this video. So I'm actually, for the first time ever, I'm actually gonna make a spoiler video, because since this video is probably gonna go up so early, I'm most likely just gonna cut this into 2 parts. So I will see you guys probably about when I upload this, so probably in 2 seconds. unless you decide to stop watching. So, yeah.